Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Wide Open with Ashlyn Harris. I cannot wait to introduce you to this week's guest, the one and only president of the Human Rights Campaign, Kelley Robinson. Welcome to the show, my dear, dear friend, my queer president, the one I turn to for all of this, chaos going in the world that gives me hope and strength and accountability. I adore you. Thank you for coming on. Welcome to the show, Kelley.
Oh, the adoration is totally mutual. It's good to see you, my friend. And I'm excited to be on the show.
I know.
Am I going to cry? I feel like people cry.
Well, people do, but I want you to know this is always a safe space.
Yes.
And we need to keep those emotions at a level where that baby is not going to pop out, because for those of you who do not know, Kelley is literally due any day now, which I can't wait to have another baby in this world. The families we're growing together, the community, it's such a beautiful thing. It gives me, in a time that feels so dark, it does give me hope.
Absolutely.
We keep choosing joy, honey.
We do. We have to choose joy.
We keep choosing joy. So I wanted to, I always talk about, everyone thinks that this show always has to be so heavy. It actually doesn't. It's just who you are behind what you do. And honestly, you've checked so many boxes. Like, you have such a beautiful story of who you were as a child and how you were raised. And it's funny because when I hear you speak, your ability to move people through words and storytelling is so magnetic and magnificent. And I always say it takes me to church. But your background is that, honey. You are just being you. So I want to talk about who Kelley was as a little kid, because I do think what people don't realize is so much of who you are is based on your experience in the church growing up, being, a Catholic woman of faith, and your family. Run me through who Kelley was as a young girl. Where did it start?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, me being a person of faith is kind of core to who I am. And I always think about faith in kind of this larger context. It's about believing in things that you've never seen, felt, or experienced before, but that they can be manifested in your life. And especially as an organizer and an activist, like, that's the whole story. Look, I'm a Black queer woman in America. I've never seen what it looks like for us to have full rights, for us to be fully respected in every area of our lives. And yet I believe it's possible if we work together, if we fight together, if we believe in it. So when I think about faith, especially in my work, it's bigger than only spirituality or only, what your religious beliefs are. It's about believing that in collection with other people, we can manifest something together. But that definitely comes from how I grew up. My family's historical story is that they were the first free Black family in a town called Muscatine, Iowa, which is
Muscatine, baby, Muscatine.
Muscatine, yes. I used to spend every summer there. But where I grew up was on the south side of Chicago, and my people, we were church-going folks. My mama would say, I don't care what you were up to on Saturday night, Sunday morning, you about to be up in those pews. And I love that. Yeah, and I remember growing up, we had a pastor that could preach, let me tell you. And there's one sermon that's always resonated with me when I think about kind of what I learned about being a community organizer and a leader. And we didn't call it that. I mean, we just called it showing up for your community. But now I understand it. He would say a lot that folks come to the space, to church he was talking about, but for me, I think about organizing and advocacy for one of two reasons. He would say it's either to find prosperity, so to do better in your life, to thrive, to, pray on your lottery ticket.
Yes.
Or, it's for salvation, for deliverance from harm and loss. And for me, growing up on the south side of Chicago, seeing what it looked like when kids didn't have enough food but were trying to learn in school, seeing what it looked like for kids to have to move out of their homes and find other places to live because they came out and their families didn't accept them, right? Seeing even people in my family struggle to find economic success, to find jobs that would keep them employed and allow folks to have food on the table. Like, this was really about survival. And it's this idea of survival that's always really resonated with me, because especially right now, like, I feel like we are in a fight for our very lives, for the lives
Yes.
of our families and friends. So I think that for me, like, growing up in the church has always been just kind of core to who I am, and also creating space for queer people to reclaim, faith and spirituality, and not be ashamed of it, but make space for ourselves to design it in ways that support us and our lives and our families.
I love that. I love that. And I know the way you move a room, because I'm lucky enough to sit on the board of the HRC, and I get to watch you in your element, not only when you're on stage, but the way you show up in the meetings no one else gets to see. Like, every time I'm in your presence, I just feel like it's like my body comes out of me in a way. It is like really a spiritual experience.
Yeah.
And I don't know if anyone's ever told you that, but it's almost like just letting the guard down and being like, you don't always have to be the strong one in this moment. And I
Yes.
wonder if that strength that you get and you exude so much, and this confidence comes from that religion and that faith and that church and that, this legacy of resistance and progress and protest. Like, you live it, Kelley. Like, you are it.
Oh, well, I gotta say, Ashlyn, it's not just me, it's everyone around us. Like, I so appreciate being in space with you, having you on the Human Rights Campaign board, because you're that person too. And I think that when we're surrounded by people that are authentically themselves, that aren't afraid of the ugly parts of our lives and our identities, but instead use those as the foundation to grow to where we need to, that show vulnerability, but also strength, like, that's what makes this movement great. And I think, finding spaces where we're not afraid of the hard stuff is so important, right? Because I think that there's this feeling that, especially with some of the issues that we talk about in the LGBTQ plus community, like, you can't talk about trans issues unless you know absolutely everything about trans issues. And that's not the case. Like, we're all on a journey of learning together.
Yes.
And I think what I've been really privileged to be part of and surrounded by is people that are willing to be on that journey together. We don't know how far the journey is. We don't know when the next rest stop is going to be, but we're in it together. And I feel like my job is to be a reflection of that, to help people see the hope, to help people see the strength, to help people see the power, because I get the privilege of traveling this country and seeing that courage just emerge every day, whether I'm talking to like teachers that are boldly standing up in states that have passed like don't say gay or trans bills in their states, but they're saying we're still going to be inclusive of our students, or talking to, ERG leaders in workplaces that are like, I don't care what the executive order on DEI said, we're still going to meet. We're still going to make sure that our company is held accountable to non-discrimination protections. But there's so much happening and so much courage right now that I don't want people to lose that, even though there's a lot of darkness as well. And I feel like that's what I've been privileged enough to have as my job. But I'm only able to do it because of the people that I'm surrounded by, like you.
Yeah. And I have to think in my heart and the way I see the world and like this invisible string and how the universe it aligns. I have to be really honest and saying, I think you were built for this moment of darkness. Like, there's no coincidence that you are the leader. But what I'll say, in a time that feels so heavy, it feels so hard, it feels like you want to question everything, you were destined for this moment. And I hope you know that too.
Oh, thank you. That means the world. And I
But
also,
it's true.
yeah. And I just feel like, and I think we talk about this a lot, but like, our task right now is not to look away from the darkness. Like, there is a lot of pain. There is a lot of struggle, a lot of harm that people are enduring every day. The task is to acknowledge it and still be willing to find the light together, because that's there too. And the light's like living within each of us. So that means a lot. I don't take what you said lightly. And I do feel like also the people that you meet on this journey, you meet for the right reasons. So like something happened where the universe brought us together.
When we met, we were like, we are lifers.
That's right.
I knew you in another lifetime. Thank God we found each other again.
That's right. And you are a powerhouse. So
I'm trying to do my part with you.
You're not trying, you're doing, boo.
I appreciate that. And what makes me laugh the most is when I got to take a deep dive in who you were growing up, I found out you were an MMA fighter.
Oh, so back in the days.
I was like, not only is she our fearless leader, she can whoop some ass. Are y'all really wanting to go up against her?
Well, not these days. I'm all pregnant and stuff. But on the other side of this, I'll get back into it.
You have to tell me about this. Like, what?
Oh, man. Yeah. You know, everybody has their story. I was, my entree to kind of organize it actually started through MMA fighting. I grew up in Chicago, went to school at the University of Missouri. And I don't know if you feel this way, but I feel like if you go 1 degree south in the United States of America, like the racism is just different. It's just different.
Yes.
So I went to school down at Mizzou. That's what we called it. And I'm telling you, like, it was just a different vibe. I mean, you had people putting cotton balls outside the Black Culture Center, people calling people of color like me out of our names. And I had just never experienced the boldness of that sort of racism in Chicago. You know, like there was an era of like, you know, you're not going to say that somebody's face in Chicago, that it was out of hand in Missouri. And the university was not really supportive. They said that, you know, some of us students of color were overreacting. So I knew for me, for my mental health, for my sanity, I needed to take a little break. So I ended up leaving school. And that's when I got into bartending at the local pool hall. And then I was doing MMA fighting to make some cash and get by. And I loved it. I loved it. I mean, because, you know, there's like, you know, this is being an athlete, there's like an equalizer when you're playing sports, right? And there was something about entering the octagon that like everything was equal. All the kind of like, you know, racism, sexism, homophobia, that didn't matter for the time that we were in the ring. It just didn't matter. And that's what I loved about it, that it gave me that moment of feeling free in a way and feeling unburdened. But I also knew it wasn't quite sustainable. So along that journey, I got a call one day after I really lost a round from the Obama campaign asking me if I wanted to be an organizer. And I was like, I don't know what that means, but if I don't have to get punched in the face to make my rent, I'm willing to give it a try. So,
dang.
So I got to the Obama campaign and things just started to click for me. It felt like the first time I'd actually seen people that were, you know, pissed off by the things that felt so big, the systems of racism and sexism and homophobia, but they had something to do about it. And it wasn't just about Barack Obama. It was really about what we could achieve together. You know, people entered the door for the candidate, but they stayed because of the community that we were building. And it just helped me to really believe in the power of community, of what we can do when we work together. But I'm telling you, I wouldn't be here today without those experiences in the ring that helped me to also be unburdened in a way.
So when I retired from soccer, I took up boxing.
Oh, you're kidding.
And it was so hard. I was like, whoa. Like, I don't think I can do this. Like, I couldn't go 30 seconds in a round without he's like, keep your hands up, keep your hands up. Yep. And I'm like, I got noodles. I can't, like, this is not for me. I mean, it was the hardest, the endurance and strength that it takes. I don't think people realize until they go a few rounds.
Oh, yeah. And so when I was a kid, I did karate for, you know, years and years and years and years. And then when I started to do MMA, I had to pick up the floor part of it, right? So I studied jujitsu. And that was like otherworldly. It's a mind sport. And I think that people don't always get that until they get into the practice of it.
No, I think that's key in sports in general. Is like, it's 90% is mentality up here in your brain. It's like, how can you see plays or scenarios or situations before they happen? Like, I will give you an example. I woke up the other day feeling anxious, woke me up right out of my sleep. And the way my brain works is I don't sit in that anxious discomfort. I rethink it. And that is purely based on my sport, that I'm able to adapt, to put a finger on it and say, oh, I see you. I've felt you before.
Yes.
And you're not going to take me down, but I'm going to have to restructure, reframe the way I see it and make it fuel me into what I'm doing today.
Yes.
And the mindset and mentality that sport has given me, life is just easier for me having those tools. And I assume that's the same for you and your experience.
Absolutely. And I think that there's a connection. I mean, for me, kind of coming back to my background in the church, like there's a connection between the mind, the body, and the spirit. But even if you think about that connection between the mind and the body, that plays out in everything that we do, especially when you think about policy and politics. That's connecting some very heady stuff about, legalese of policy and litigation in courts with direct impact on our bodies.
Yes.
We've got to be able to see where those connections are and to actually strategize our way out of it, whether you're in sport or advocacy, means that you have to have an awareness of both and how they show up in the world and be able to navigate that, create strategies, understand the stress points.
I love that. And I have never told you this, but you clearly know. Like sitting on the board now, I get the privilege to speak a lot in front of big crowds, like when we have events or when we're doing things. And the amount of anxiety and stress I get by like doing public speaking, what I love is now it's pushing me. Like you push me every event. Like everyone's like, you're so good at this. You've got this. But inside I'm like, this is not my normal playing field. And I'm so nervous. And I love that I still get that adrenaline spike. I still get that feeling of that pressure moment that really makes or breaks us. And I get to do it now and search for that feeling in a different way, which is so freaking cool.
That's beautiful. And you're unlocking it.
What a gift this is to feel this uncomfortable because it matters this much to me. Like it matters. Like when I would walk out to to play, I didn't feel pressure and I didn't feel performance anxiety because I was like, always put life in perspective. I'm out here, I'm entertaining. I'm entertaining the masses. I'm not curing cancer. But when I get on that stage for the Human Rights Campaign and I need to deliver and show up for a community that is really, really getting knocked down, it's a whole different pressure and it's a whole different feeling that does matter. That's maybe someone in that room, I move enough to choose joy, to choose to stay, to choose themselves. Like that fucking matters.
Yes. That's huge.
Yeah.
And I think that when you're willing to go on that journey, right, especially to embrace things that make you feel vulnerable or uncomfortable, there are people in the room that feel that same way. And whether or not you say it out loud, that energy transfer is happening. And when you're able to kind of break through, other people are with you.
Yes.
Like, I don't know if you saw Cory Booker, he did that 25-hour speech, right? And that, I think, again, kind of bridges this sort of like head and body kind of topic that we're talking about. So to stand up for 25 hours, I mean, that takes a level of endurance, right? Just to be able to do it, let alone speaking and preaching like he was doing. And at the beginning of it, a lot of people were like, oh, we don't quite understand why he's doing this. Like, what's happening? What's going on? But as that 25 hours progressed, he got clearer and clearer about what he was doing. The messages that he was sharing with people were so dynamic and so moving and so urgent about the call of the charge that we have right now to not accept business as usual. And then by the end of that 25 hours, he actually broke Strom Thurmond's record, who was, the anti-civil rights activist who held the previous record for the longest Senate speech. He was able to beat that racist record through this action. And even if you didn't understand it, he made a physical sacrifice that made people feel differently about their own power. That's
That
incredible. And it
that
happens
part.
in different ways. It happens in sport. It happens in activism. Apparently, it can happen at the United States Senate. But it's such a powerful thing when we're able to break through in that way that we can feel it in our bodies and our souls. And once you feel, and this is the thing that I think is dangerous, right? Once you feel what liberation feels like, you're not willing to go back. You
You're
are
not
not
going
willing to
back.
go back.
Nope. And I am with you on that. And I want more people on that train
Yes.
to see that power, to tap in and access that inside. Because I went to an event for International Women's Day, and it was DVF's event. And Diane said she had a bunch of women come sit for a luncheon, and she said, we will not choose anger for the hate that is being placed on us as people. We will not choose anger. They want us to be angry women, but we will not choose anger. We will choose joy. The resistance of choosing joy will be the key to show that in a time that feels so hard, the opposite of fear is love.
Yes.
Love. We have to show up with love. And that is really so much more powerful than just being angry.
That's so powerful. That's so powerful.
And I really was humbled because I've been angry. It's hard not to be angry. And I'm curious, what do you feel about that with a community right now that, with all of the rhetoric going on and the attacks on the trans community, what do we choose right now?
Yeah. Look, I think there's room for every emotion, right? I think that anger does have a place. Look, when you see what's happening to trans kids, you should be pissed off. When you see people being disappeared who have legal status in the United States being disappeared from the streets, you should be pissed off. But the problem is that if you only sit in that anger, it can tear you apart. It doesn't necessarily destroy the opposition, but it can destroy you first. So I appreciate what she said around the choices that we have to make of what emotion you choose to live in, what you choose to give to the haters and to our opposition. But right now, and I think the other choice that we can really make is around choosing hope, around believing that something else is possible. And with what I feel like is happening right now, because we have just seen, it's been a hell of a year.
Yeah.
We've seen all these executive orders, right, attacking our community, from banning gender-affirming care to kicking trans people out the military to trying to eliminate diversity, equity, and inclusion as though somehow being diverse and having merit are at odds. We've seen all of these attacks on our community and our people, and what they want us to feel is overwhelmed. They want us to feel like there's nothing you can do about it. We're moving ahead without you. Good luck. You should just give up. And that's the choice point for me, that we have to choose to believe that we can win together if we fight back. And then we've got to give ourselves proof positive details of how to make it happen. But I think that a lot of people are sitting in that choice point of, do I hide, right? Do I try to protect myself, or do I show up for the movement? Do I fight back collectively? And the answer has to be choosing to fight, choosing to hold on to our joy. And like you said, choosing love in the face of all this fear and anger and hate.
I just want to tell all of these young kids who are experiencing so much at school, and that's the hard part, Kelley, is the numbers don't lie. And, you know the statistics more than I do. But right now, more than ever, our queer community, our children are being affected at an alarming rate, with suicide rates, with harassment, with abuse, with neglect, being kicked out of homes. So, I do hope that this podcast is a safe space for a lot of our queer listeners and followers. What advice are you giving the younger generation who are quite scared, who do feel fear, who do feel they can't live their full, true, authentic self in fear of what might come in any type of retaliation in school or by their parents? What are we doing about it to let them know we got them?
Yeah. I mean, we have to affirm for every kid, especially our trans and non-binary youth, especially our youth of color, that they are enough just as they are. They are enough and they are loved. And I think that what they actually need to see are more examples of adults like us that are showing up to say that unequivocally in public, out loud, and everywhere that we can. Because it's not their job to deal with all this nonsense. We created it. It's our job to fix it for them. And if I look at the future, there's such an opportunity in front of us. 30% of Generation Z identify as LGBTQ, many of them identifying as trans and non-binary. That is huge.
Huge.
I think the greatest threat to our progress is if they don't feel like they can be fully who they are and retreat back into the closet. Or worse yet, don't even make it to be adults, right? Because they don't feel like there's enough love and support for them to exist in this world. That's our job, to make sure that they can survive and that they can thrive. And that means that we've got to fight back and show them examples of what it looks like to do that. And make sure that they've got the resources now to survive. A lot of the work that we're doing at the Human Rights Campaign, especially since the election, has been about separating fact from fiction for folks, helping to clarify what our rights truly are, and then giving parents and teachers and families and everyone resources on how to survive the moment that we're in, because it is challenging, from trying to get access to your health care and medication to making sure that you've got the right parentage documents in place for your kids, to, the challenges that folks are experiencing with IDs and passports and things like that. There are things that we have to do right now to reduce the harm, increase safety for folks, and at the same time fight back against the systems.
Absolutely. We have to get out there and continue to fight back. We have to keep showing up, which you talk about so often. And I would love everyone who, whether you identify as queer or you're an ally, that is the greatest gift when we walk into those rooms. I sat in a board meeting with a 60-plus-year-old gentleman. I will not name his name in confidence. And he literally was like, me and my wife just didn't think it was right for what was going on in the queer community. So we've dedicated our lives to be activists. Like, that is, it was really hard for me not to sob in that moment.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh my God, there's so many great allies out there who we need.
Yes.
We need that. And it was just such a beautiful moment that I'm so lucky, and I want everyone to be able to experience the feelings in those rooms, because they're magic.
Wow. That's so powerful. And the thing that really sticks with me, Ashlyn, is as hard as these times are that we're in, with all the darkness that we're experiencing, everything that we're facing, it is a privilege to be the ones who are called to fight back.
Yes.
And especially when I think about the legacy that we are inheriting, right? I mean, look, we have ancestors that fought back in this fight when fighting back meant, losing your job, losing your family, and sometimes losing your life. And yet they fought. I mean, we are the descendants of Marsha P. Johnson and Sylvia Rivera, who fought at Stonewall. We're the descendants of Harvey Milk, right? Who showed us what it looked like for queer people to be in seats of power. We're the descendants of Judy Shepard and John Lewis, people that put their bodies and their lives on the line. And now it's our turn. And I think, one of the things I feel like a lot of us are grappling with now, especially people of our generation, where, there was a moment where equality kind of felt inevitable. We were complaining about companies pink washing pride parades. And now, what I wouldn't give for a good pink wash sometimes. But I think that we're coming to terms with the reality that anytime you challenge institutions of power, it's not going to be safe. We're dealing with the backlash of the progress that we've made that's just requiring us to confront the systems differently. But I'm so confident that we have the tools. I mean, if I think about everything that folks did to survive the AIDS crisis in the 80s, we have the tools in our community. It's just we have to rebuild that muscle memory and get ready for the fight. And I think that we are ready for it. because we have the hope in our hearts and we know what's possible. Like I said before, we've tasted and felt equality and
Yes.
liberation.
Yes.
It's too
Yes.
late to take that away from us.
And also, you bring up a really interesting point, and it's something I'm always worried about. Is you've now opened your life, you and Becky, because honey, Becky G is she is it. And I love her. The first lady of the queers, she shows up and she shows out.
That's my heart right there.
Yeah, trust me, I adore her. But I'm going to say this, like, you now have opened your life up to hate. You've opened your life up to access for everyone, on both sides of the scale. Do you worry about your safety? Are you're due any day now with your second child? Like, you're a mama bear through and through. Like, how are you moving in a world and a time where there are so many threats out there, and there are so many people who are very extreme when it comes to how they feel about our community? Are you worried?
Yeah, I mean, it's not easy. When I took this job at the Human Rights Campaign, Becky and I had a conversation, and we said, because really we were taking the job.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a family commitment to put yourself into this work. And there's a lot of sacrifices my family makes to make it possible. But the environment has really changed. I talked to some of our folks that have been around for 20 and 30 years at the Human Rights Campaign. And, we've always gotten calls to the office from people that disagree with our mission of equality, right? And they used to call saying, we're praying for you. We're praying for you. Mm-hmm. And now they call and say, we're going to kill you. And the question is it a valid threat that we can verify or not? But that's kind of the extremism that exists in our world. That's what we're fighting back against. And sometimes it is scary. But again, I kind of come back to this point that, we are dealing in a moment where we have had an incredible, dramatic increase in our rights, particularly over the last, 40 or so years. And the backlash to those rights is violence sometimes, particularly political violence. And unfortunately, that has always been the story of America if you look at it over time. So it's our job, one, to do all that we can to increase safety, reduce risk, especially for me and my family, but to also acknowledge that this is part of the struggle. We've got to stamp that out. We got to name it for what it is, and we got to defeat it to get to the other side. Because we know that there are more good, reasonable people, even people that disagree with us, than those extremists that want to promote hate and violence.
Yes.
So that's kind of also, I think, part of what we've been doing at HRC is really driving that accountability, right? But it's not easy. I'm sure you experience a lot of the same stuff.
Yeah, and that's the hard, you open yourself up to a lot of scrutiny. You open yourself up to the media and the tabloids and the news and the harassment and the stalkers. Like, it's no joke out there. Like, it's scary. It's scary. And when you are raising young Black and brown children, as you and I both are, we move differently because of it. And last night, I'm not even kidding. Last night I had a dinner, and, high profile people have a trans child and they're looking to leave. And it's just like, we're willing to do anything for the safety of our children, and we should never be even put in this position.
No, absolutely. And even the conversations that we have to have with our kids, like, my kid does not check that mailbox. I don't know what people are sending in the mail. You're not going to check that. Yeah.
It's scary.
I know, it is scary.
So, because you and Becky you both have been in activism. You both met at Planned Parenthood. What is it like behind closed doors? Because you are working 24/7. You're literally at work right now, and please don't go into labor, but at this moment, you could go any second now. You're dedicating your life to this mission and work. But who's Kelley outside of being, the Human Rights Campaign president who shows up 23 hours a day for our people? Like, what are you doing outside? What are you doing with the family? How are you showing up for Becky? Like, what's going on?
Absolutely. Well, I will say, we fell in love through the movement. So part of what drew us together is our passion
Mm.
for social change. I mean, I think that one of the things that we used to do, I remember one of the first, what was it, Dave? It's the first trip that we took. We went across the world and we were sitting on a beach reading each other like Audre Lorde and Bridge Called My Back. And we were just in it, But it's been a real piece of what brings us together is this aspiration to create a bigger, broader, and better world, to build a bigger we. And I think building our family has always been a part of that too. But at home, look, I'm Kelley from the block.
I love this.
We like to watch reality television. There's a real emphasis, and you probably feel this too, but like a real emphasis on being present in the moment. Like doing the little stuff, taking the kid to the park and not looking at the phone. You know what I mean?
Oh, yes.
Making like pancakes at home. But those little moments, like, because if I think about why I do this work to fight for equality, it's not so I can march on the Hill and make speeches at rallies and do all that. It's so that I can have those little moments, right? Those little moments of joy and presence with the family. So any chance that we get, we're just spending that time and embracing it and enjoying it. Because, it literally wasn't possible a couple of generations ago. And yet we're here, two queer women of color with 1.5, almost 2 kids, enjoying our little life in the suburbs.
Yeah, but
because people fought for that.
Exactly. And it is our job now to stand on the backs of the people who came before us.
That's right.
And this new administration is trying to stand on our necks. So we have to show up. This is our time to show up. And I'm telling you, you fire me up. Like even now I'm getting so fired up. I'm like, let's go. But I want to know, because this is important, and I ask this all the time to all of our guests. Wide Open is clearly, being very authentic and just peeling back the layers and talking about the things no one else is willing to talk about. With your life and where you've gone and the missions you've just been doing over and over and over, what was the moment in your life that split you wide open? Like, what was the breaking point that that changed it all for you, where you were like, this is it?
Man, yeah. Wow, that's such a profound question, because you can think of like the little things over time, but what's the big thing that kind of changed the trajectory? My mom got really sick in 2014. And it was like unclear why or what happened. And at that time, I was working at Planned Parenthood. I mean, I was busting my tail. I was working hard. I was all over, the world doing all sorts of things to fight for justice. And when she got sick, of course, I went home to take care of her in the hospital. And I remember I was trying to do it all. I was trying to still kind of like be as attentive as possible into the movement work and then taking care of her too. And I remember that there was one night where she had to be on kind of 24-hour care because, she was a little bit delirious. And in order for them to not kind of restrain her in the bed, you had to have somebody watch her at all times. So I was doing an overnight shift of watching her, and you have to have kind of an IV or whatever. And she had one in her neck at that point.
Oh, wow.
And, I had worked all day, was staying up all night. And I felt like I blinked. And when I woke up, there was a whole team of people in the room because she had pulled that IV out of her neck and was very susceptible to infection. And I was like, what am I doing? How did I allow myself not to prioritize the thing that matters most right now, trying to be too much to too many people? And after that, I was like, I'm not going to, I got to have my priorities clear. My priorities are my family. My priorities are protecting my joy. My priorities are my peace. But it just changed the way I looked at the world. Like, I'm not trying to be everything for everyone. I'm trying to make sure that even in this fight for justice, that I protect my family, right? Because that's ultimately what this fight is about.
Yes.
And so, that was one of those moments that was really clarifying for me. But it has also been like, I think, a gift. My mom survived and she's doing great now.
Wow.
And it really helped me to kind of recalibrate the way I think about the work, that it's actually not, when you do movement work, you're not helping anybody by sacrificing all of yourself to the movement, right? What you actually want to do is give the movement the best of you, and then also be prepared to embrace the joy that you are fighting for, because the joy isn't just the outcome that we hope to get like after we die, right? No, it's a strategy on how we continue to build towards getting there.
Yes.
So it was a real life lesson in learning for me that, I really hold on to.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that. So powerful. And, with life right now, and you're about to have a little girl, right? We're bringing a girl.
Right.
Let's
That's right.
go. What's next for you? Like what's coming up besides a little rest? Because I know damn well you're not going to rest that long, because I know you better than that. What's coming up? What's on the radar? What's next for us?
Absolutely. Well, I am excited about, all the developments with my family, which I'm just thrilled about. And it's all about, again, like not letting this world take away our joy and not letting it stop us from continuing what we've done for generations of building our families and building our communities. And then, on the front of protecting our people, there's a few things we got to do. I think that we all have to be the truth tellers right now. There are so much misinformation and lies that are spreading. We have to be the truth tellers. I think that means helping to separate fact from fiction and people to understand their rights and the resources they have to protect their rights. But it also means refusing to be silent. You don't have to know it all to know that discrimination is wrong. You don't have to know it all to know that if a kid's getting bullied because they're queer or trans, and it's not right. But we have to be the people that are not willing to be silent bystanders, but are going to show up and speak out, whether it's at school or at work or wherever you are. And we've got to show up. I mean, look, Pride this year, I think, is going to be really important. We need to make sure that people aren't staying home out of fear, but they are showing up, because we have power in our presence. Our visibility and seeing numbers that are bigger than they ever have been before will help a queer kid in Kansas that's not out yet know that there are people that will accept them when they are. That's what we have to do. And then I think, the last thing is kind of more of a soul thing, but we've got to believe that we can get to the other side of this.
Yes.
Look, there are more good people in this world than the extremists that you see that are attacking us. I mean, in this last election, 36% of people did not vote. If we get a fraction of them to feel inspired and engaged right now, we win,
Yeah.
So this is not a situation where we're like dramatically in the wrong, we're dramatically out of power and without hope. No, we have hope and we certainly have power, but we've got to use it and we've got to believe in it.
Yeah, and I am a very firm believer in speaking truth into existence. And the thing that keeps me up every night is, the conversation around letting trans kids participate in sports. Like, I lose too much damn sleep over this. And for a child who was so troubled in their home, I am telling you that the single-handed thing that saved my damn life was my team. Because I felt a type of belonging I did not feel at home. I felt a safety that I did not feel at home. And it was a good outlet for me to understand life's fucking lessons. Like, I am who I am because of the sports I played and what I learned about leadership, what I learned about adapting, the tools I gained to show up in groups and different, like holding each other accountable and fighting as a collective. There are so many great things I learned, but the biggest thing, it saved my life. And how are we, because it kept me off the streets.
Yeah.
And I'm a person who started doing drugs in 6th grade. And my coach was like, what are we doing here? Like, it was my support system. And it held me accountable in the way I showed up for the group. And how are we going to take that away from kids? How are we going to take that experience away from these young children just wanting a place to play, to belong?
Yeah, and that's what people need to be hearing, right? I mean, we all want sports to be fair. We want students to be safe. We want young people to have all the opportunities that you just talked about. It's critically important. It's not only life-changing, it's life-saving, like you
Saving.
said. And I can even make space for people that don't understand everything, right? Like some people have legitimate questions about, well, what does participation look like? What does it mean? Maybe they don't know a transgender or non-binary person, right? And they want those questions answered. But what I am clear about is that the answer cannot be that we are going to exclude kids from all the benefits of sport. We just can't do it. And especially when you look towards this future generation, I think I said it earlier, 30% of Generation Z identify as LGBTQ. A lot of them identify as non-binary. It's not a viable solution to only say, well, we're just going to exclude. And in fact, even more so than non-viable, it's actually dangerous. I mean, how many times have we also seen just over the course of history that if you don't fit into somebody's idea or box about what gender should look like, especially for women, you are policed, they come after you. I mean, I just think about the way the sojourner truth of it all for Black women, right? Ain't I a woman? We had to go through so much to prove our womanhood as cisgender women. Or I think about the athletes like the Algerian boxer, right? Who was a cisgender woman who was targeted by anti-trans attacks. Or Brittany Griner is another example. So let's also be clear that the ways that these bills are moving are not only dangerous to the fundamental just truth that kids should be able to play sports and get all the benefits from those sports. I mean, they're targeting kids as young as 4 and 5 years old. But also that the ways that these bills are created, they actually expose cisgender women to high levels of scrutiny, interrogation, possible examinations that, look, we don't need to have any of that happening. So I think that this is one of those spaces where authentic conversations are needed.
Yes.
Where we need to be bringing folks into the conversation and discussion. We don't have to lead with the solution, but we do have to know that excluding kids and using kids as political chips like they are right now, that's not okay.
Yeah, it's not. And it's not. And we need to envision and pave the way for a world in which we're all treated equal. The freedom to live our life and our truth without fear, without judgment, without harassment, under the law. Like, we have to keep doing this. And that's what you're doing as the president. You are showing up in a way that is so impactful. You are going to leave an incredible legacy behind based on your life's work and choosing it, because it is a choice, and you choose it every single day, every moment. And I am so grateful for those choices, because to call you our I have to keep calling it's you are my president. I'm not seeing the world any other way, but I'm so grateful that you made these choices to show up in this way for the Human Rights Campaign, because I do think this is the moment. It is it's a defining moment in our life, and for us to be a part of it, to be pivotal, to be important characters in this story, I'm humbled by it, and I'm ready for the opportunity every single day, and I'm grateful for our friendship and for you coming on and being a part of my show, Wide Open. But I know I have you as a sister in my life, and that to me is what it's about.
I love you, Ashlyn Harris. I know I'm not alone in this. We are doing this together. And I'm reminded of that Cornel West quote, "Justice is what love looks like in public." I love you. And I love that your commitment to justice shows up in these ways.
Thanks, Kelley. Thanks for being on our show. And can you tell everyone where they can find you, and if they want to sign up to be volunteers for the HRC? I want everyone to hear that again, because it is so important, and we need everyone right now. We are in the fight of our lives for our generation, and we have to keep showing up.
Absolutely. Look, if folks want to get involved, you can text ACTION to 472-472. You can visit us at hrc.org or find us on the internets. I'm at Kelley J. Robinson on Instagram and all across the webs, and we're at HRC and at Human Rights Campaign. But join us. We need you in this movement. We need you in this fight, and together we are going to get free.
Yes, that part. Thank you again for everyone tuning in to another episode of Wide Open. We'll see you next week.